Hi,
Hi, Melanie. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you. I'm just gonna adjust this a little bit. There. Okay, I'm nice. Nice and not too close now, hopefully.
I was thinking of the same thing. I think this is not too
I
close,
think this is
right?
good. I think
Okay.
this is good.
Okay, this is
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Okay.
No, this is good. Yeah. So I usually just wait like a minute or so because essentially like everyone will get the notification that we've gone live. But I've seen we already have one person who's joined us. So hello, welcome, welcome.
Hello.
And so I'll just kind of do like a preamble, and then we'll dive in. But just to confirm, um, do is your name pronounced Priyanka?
Yes,
Oh,
that's
perfect.
perfect. Yeah.
Excellent, Priyanka. Okay, awesome. Yeah, okay, the notification just went out. But essentially, this whole thing will be on IGTV later on, and we're just gonna kind of like cut out this little beginning part, and then we'll have the full conversation up on IGTV and YouTube, just so you're aware as well.
Oh, wonderful. This is my
Wonderful.
first IG live on
Oh,
Instagram.
that's
So,
exciting. Yeah.
yeah, it's exciting.
That's honestly, I think we've done, how many have we done now? I don't remember. 19 maybe ish, 18 or 19. And I would say they like 17 out of those 19, it was their first time as well. So I think it's like it's still fairly new. Hello, hello, those who are joining. Okay, so I'll start my little preamble now, and my marketing team will have the go ahead to start to edit out up until now.
Awesome.
All right, so welcome everyone to our founder chat. My name is Melanie, and this is Priyanka Raha. Is that correct?
Yes.
Correct. Okay. Fantastic. I always want to make sure that we're pronouncing everyone's names correctly. So I'm really excited to be here. We have been doing these founder chats at Volition since the spring, when everything happened with COVID. We reached out to our community and asked how we can best support. And one of the kind of resounding feedback that came back was whether COVID or not, really having visibility as a startup is always really helpful. And we knew that was one way that we could help support there would be to do these kind of weekly founder chats to get to know founders better, get to know what they're going through, what this year's been like, what they've learned throughout their entrepreneurial journey. So it's been really fantastic to get to know so many founders in our community. And Priyanka, we met in May, I believe, at one of our pitch events. So it's been a little while. So I'm really excited to kind of hear how things are going. And essentially, for everyone out there, so you know, this is kind of a casual but facilitated kind of interview. But please do feel free to ask questions, to join in the conversation at any point in time. Nice thing about IG Live, it's a little bit more casual, which is great. It'll be about 30 minutes. Yeah, it'll be about 30 minutes, and that's going to be on our IGTV and on our YouTube afterwards as well. So please do say hello if you're joining us. We really appreciate it. And otherwise, I'm going to kind of do this little intro for Priyanka, who is the founder and CEO of PopSmartKids, which you'll learn a lot about. But essentially, my understanding is that PopSmartKids is reimagining screen time to inspire budding creators, writers, and thinkers of tomorrow. So, without further ado, what I'm curious to learn from you is what do you mean by that? And then we're going to get into the story behind it. But first and foremost, kind of what is PopSmartKids? What have you built here? What is reimagining screen time? What are all the what's all the juicy pieces of that explanation?
Thank you so much, Melanie, and hello everyone who is joining us today. I'm so thrilled to be here having this conversation with you, Melanie. So thank you for having me.
Of course.
Um, yes, the idea behind PopSmart Kids is really just thinking about technology not as an external piece that is looked upon with either fear or something that is going to harm, especially, and this is especially with respect to early learners. Just
Right.
kind of for just a moment, reimagine and think about screen time as something that can really help us grow, help us build
Mm-hmm.
connections. That was the idea of starting it 2 years ago. The idea came to me. It wasn't like one moment of epiphany, but
Yeah.
it was. I'm a mom to two wonderful boys. They are in elementary school. They're all homeschooling right now, considering where we are.
Yeah.
Uh, but this was a few years ago. And I personally always have been really excited about using technology to teach them different things. And those could be either hands-on games or content that is really engaging. But what I was starting to see when I came home one day after work was they were just with their digital devices. And this is when they had, they were allowed to have some independent time with their digital devices. They were with their digital devices, and I started to call it the black hole phenomenon. It's almost like, what is going on between my kids and the digital devices? I had no clue about. Now, I'll give you an example of how this was different than other experiences around the house. So for example, if my kids were building a Lego, made a drawing, all they wanted to do was come running to me and tell me, look, Mom, this is what I've done. And the dialogue that that came after that is where the real engagement happens, correct?
Right.
And that was missing when they were having this interaction with the digital devices. And then I started to, and I have been a person in tech, a woman in tech, my entire career. I started my career as a software engineer. I look upon technology as like this magic wand that can solve the toughest problems that we have today. So thinking about, and here I am kind of thinking about technology in this way, and here I am at home with sort of my next generation, the next builders, creators, thinkers. And I felt like I am losing a grasp on that engagement, on that connection.
Right. Yeah.
So that's where PopSmartKids started. But right now, what we have is we have a couple of, we have 2 apps on the App Store. So Melanie, I know you said we met in May. So
we did,
between May and now, between May and now, we had a few iterations of the story writing app. So for everyone else who is joining us, PopSmartKids, we have a story writing app. And we have a trivia app. So the trivia app, Melanie, for you would be new. So that's something that we launched.
Oh, fantastic.
Early fall, late summer. Who knows which month we are in? This is 2020.
Sometime in 2020.
Sometimes in 2020.
Trivia.
Yes. So the idea behind that was to convert to build creators and not consumers.
Right.
So both these apps are built around really building that connection, collaborative pieces. So that's who we are.
That's so interesting. I saw, I just see someone asking how can you participate. So you can participate through, I believe there should be like a question. Yeah, so there should be like a question mark little card. If you have questions, you can put it there, or you can just type a question or a comment into the comment section. And we'll moderate that and get your questions out. So those are different ways that you can engage. And I think you can also like things, because I always see hearts popping up. So I'm assuming you can like and engage that way as well. So that's just for someone in the audience. We'd love for you to participate. But Priyanka, that's really interesting. And I hadn't thought about that, the difference in like the physical building of things and being, look, I want to talk about this, let's engage. I was just watching my nephew building a house of cards with my mom on video, because they're in Vancouver and I'm in Ireland, but watching it on video. And that's the thing, is like they built it and it fell apart at the end and they had to talk about it, right? Whereas like I hadn't thought about the fact that like watching him do activities on his iPad, he would just sit there quietly and I would never hear what was going on and what he was thinking and how he was engaging with it. So that's so interesting. And I love that you thought of that. I know I heard your pitch in May, but it's really, I feel like I actually understand it better now.
It's always nice to have these conversations. And I think pitch is just so time bound. It's like 5 minutes. You got to touch all of the points of kind of your entire journey. But this is more, I feel like this is more engaging, more in depth.
Yeah.
But I wanted to mention that, like what you said, like that engagement. So besides the app and this, there's this whole another, this not so much as a curriculum, but I have developed a 7-point process where, I call this under the umbrella of mentor over monitor. What I mean by that is, instead of, and I'm not at all saying that we need to like stop monitoring, keeping an eye on how they're interacting, but I am just challenging everyone out there, parents, mentors, caregivers to double down on mentoring, how we can kind of build this digital citizens so they can actually
Right.
meaningfully kind of handle their technology.
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's really important. I know that's something that you touched on in our kind of email back and forth, talking about how screen time is ruining children. And you mentioned this mentor over monitor strategy, which I think is really interesting. And I'd be curious about in talking about your mentor over monitor strategy, what has the reaction to that been? Has it shifted during COVID? I'm curious about what what the response to this has been.
Oh, absolutely. And I think with COVID, it has kind of accelerated that, right?
Yeah.
Because if we think about that monitoring piece, the questions that we were asking before, early this year or last year, where anywhere that I was speaking with parents at schools, they were asking like, what's the amount of time that's perfect? Is it 30
Mm-hmm.
minutes, 60 minutes, 1 hour? Um, 60 minutes or an hour and a half, whatever that
Right.
is.
Yeah.
But what I try to focus on these conversations is that it's not that just when the bell rings 30, all
Yeah.
right, done. If you're in
Yeah.
the middle of something,
Yeah.
like it's not a 0 and 1 thing. It's not a black and white. Like
Mm-hmm.
have these
Mm-hmm.
conversations.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that has absolutely snowballed those conversations right now. Because if you think about it, how do you, and I challenge everyone to think about screen time as not just this one entire thing. Think about it like food. I ate. It so much depends on what you ate and what time. So if you think about it, like my first grader and fifth grader, they're doing their school
Mm-hmm.
online. So
Mm.
that's on their screen. So that's
Yeah.
screen time.
Yeah.
So does that mean I limit that? So how do I manage that? So
Yeah.
there are, without diving too deep into that, but there are elements of it. Like one of them is like the 20-20-20 rule. It's like
Mm-hmm.
you take breaks, and it doesn't mean exactly not 20 that 20-20-20. That seems ironic given this is 2020. But the idea is that you do 20 minutes of screen time and then you take a break of 20 seconds and you look at
Mm.
something that is 20 feet away.
Mm. Right.
Not so much
Mm-hmm.
focusing
Mm-hmm.
on those
Mm-hmm.
numbers, but the idea, the
Yeah.
break.
Yeah.
And the example that you gave, Melanie, is that your nephew,
Mm-hmm.
tactile
Mm-hmm.
things, have a good
Mm-hmm.
balance.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
So
Interesting.
those are going to all build together. And
Yeah.
one of the questions that we usually as parents or aunts or like we ask our either nieces or our daughters is, hey, how was school? Turn
Mm-hmm.
that around and ask, hey, what were you watching? See if they
Right.
can bring something back. And
Right.
teachers actually use this all the time in their classrooms.
Mm-hmm.
So those are some of the conversations because they are always asking kids to tell them back like what they have learned. And we can
Yeah.
do the same thing with screen time.
Right. Oh, it's really
So I have been
interesting.
having a lot of those conversations with parents,
I
and
bet.
it's been so much fun because the idea is that yes, we need that screen time as parents because we are stretched too thin, like
Yeah.
everybody right here.
Yeah.
So how can we kind of manage that in a way that it's not causing long-term harmful effects?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so back to PopSmart Kids as well. I saw there's a question for you, which I'll come to in just a moment. But what I'm curious about then is how PopSmart Kids fits into this in terms of like walk us through what it's like to use one of your applications. So like the storytelling tool. So I'd like to like kind of draw a picture of what PopSmart Kids is.
Oh, absolutely. So I'll talk to the story writing app that we have. And the idea of building that was really kind of using technology as a platform to build that connection. And it is
Okay.
collaborative. So you can go in as either a parent, an aunt, a teacher, a mentor,
Mm-hmm.
and you can sort of create your group with either your nephews, nieces, your kids at your home, or like the classroom that you're having, and build stories together. Um, this was not built in 2020, although we launched in 2020.
Right.
This was really built with that idea of connection. But I think
Yeah.
this is one of those applications which will outstand the needs of 2020. I know
Yeah.
right now we are all doing online, but I see the future of education being a hybrid model of,
Mm-hmm.
yes, not everything should be online. Everybody needs that social interaction, especially early learners, kids.
Right.
But there are so many elements in this application where teachers can provide or parents can kind of build those stories together, that I see happening even beyond. I
Right.
will give a quick example. We are kind of getting into that holiday season.
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up in India. So right now, we in India, we are going through like a huge cultural festival
Yeah.
that lasts for 8 to 10 days. And even after that, we are getting into Thanksgiving. So think about where we are. We are unable to see our loved ones in person. How about so the application is great for early learners as well. Kids who haven't started to really put down words and sentences together. They're just starting to
Right.
learn.
Mm-hmm.
There are visual effects. There is like you can actually get pictures in. You can draw on top of it. You can just draw on a white, almost like a white paper.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's because not just young kids, like we as well. There's going back to the age-old saying that a picture is worth a
For a
thousand
thousand
words.
words. Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like even right now, not outside of the schools, as families, we can use this app to really pull out those old pictures and create
Mm.
stories and just even though we are so many miles away, we can
Yeah.
create something beautiful together.
Yeah. Amazing. Okay, so you have now you have two applications out, and the question someone has was a little bit about kind of your vision. So it sounds like you started building this in 2018. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, and then you have the storytelling tool was kind of developed and it was launched in 2020. The trivia tool was launched in 2020 as well, sometime in the recent months.
Yes.
So what does the future of PopSmart Kids look like? And the questions were kind of also around like where are you currently operating? Is it gonna be multilingual? What's kind of like your big goal for like the next year, but also like what's your kind of big vision as well?
Right, great. So I'll start with like the big vision and then I'll take the other subsequent questions.
Yeah.
So the big vision is really to be able to inspire kids to become creators and writers as a whole. So
Yeah.
we think of PopSmart, right, as like our flagship product.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
we might have we really don't want to build like a whole array or aisle of products, but we might just bring in something that really catches our eye or see the appetite. But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
really building that stories, that's what we want to focus on. That's what we want to see.
Yeah.
Because as much as reading is essential learning, it's also essential to be able to read and just kind of be the creator. And I do believe that technology can kind of come in and do it can help kids with special needs, especially to help them write. And that brings me to like the questions that you have. Someone asked is, yes, we do have plans to build this in multiple languages, because I do think that again, that's something that a lot of the kids, because our education system, our world is global now.
Mm-hmm.
As a teacher volunteer here, I have seen kids who have just landed here and they are trying to. They do have amazing ideas, but it's kind of translating those ideas into from one language because they're thinking in
Mm-hmm.
a different language and trying to
Mm-hmm.
write in a different language. So I think that's where technology can come in, can really accelerate that learning process.
Mm.
So I do see our team here at PopSmart Kids, I do see us kind of zeroing in our efforts on developing that story writing app and really making it available for everyone. And by that, I mean kind of bringing in elements where people can really, the other thing that we want to build in, and this came up, we did a bunch of workshops, story writing workshops during the time that kids have been at home, they have been sheltering in place. So we saw a huge appetite for kids who are still trying to write, but they're good at saying things, so kind of voice to
Mm.
text.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we have big plans for this, and
Yeah.
we'll see where it takes us.
Oh, that's really interesting because I know some people in my life who have extreme anxiety over writing. And they are able to communicate verbally really well, but when it comes to actually writing down their thoughts, there's this kind of like barrier. And there's just this intense anxiety about putting their thoughts to paper. So I think that there's just so many different uses for this, which I'm very curious to watch where this goes essentially. And it sounds like there's lots of different kind of paths you can take, which is very exciting. Um,
Absolutely. And then writing
yeah.
is something that we all need. No matter what you do, you should be able to. And that kind of brings us to there's so much more that we can do with this app, like science reports, kind of doing distant adventure trips and writing stories about it.
Cool. I love it. Oh yeah. No, I'm excited to see what's going to happen here. Okay, so I'm curious. So you said that you've been a woman in tech as your career. So is this your first kind of like entrepreneurial pursuit?
Yes, this is my first time kind of taking the leap of faith from a
Yeah.
corporate job into the
Yeah.
startup world. Yeah,
Oh, fantastic.
it's
Okay,
been
so
exciting.
I was gonna say, what's that been like, and what's that been like with 2020? What is kind of your first couple of years of entrepreneurship look like?
Um, so there are a couple of things. I think this is something I have realized as I made the leap from corporate to the startup world.
Hmm.
First thing I realized is that it's like almost like a tight-knit family. People are really generous with their time.
Mm,
People want to help each other and I think it kind of comes from that idea of like being an entrepreneur is a lonely journey. It's very hard to
right.
understand how like your single day can go from, oh yeah, awesome, this is 10 a.m. Oh God, this is 11, like something happened. So it's so much of that roller coaster ride
Yeah.
that like people who are in this community, they kind of stick to each other and know, they understand. So I have received so much support and so much help from just people in the initial days when I was trying to figure this out. How do I do this?
Yeah.
How do I do that? Um, but 2020 definitely has brought in some challenges. People are overwhelmed. There is that always that question of childcare, which I think
Mm,
is not directly related to startup, but kind of has gone into affecting small business owners, especially because without childcare, you're just paralyzed to move forward. It seems
hmm.
like one of those resources that is needed besides funding and team and everything else that a company needs to have.
Mm,
But it has been really exciting. And I think that you cannot really, the other thing that I have realized, like I took the leap when I really thought that I got to build this, I got to build this, I got to build this. It has to be built. It's that nagging
hmm.
need to go and build that because it didn't exist. And I think that is what like drives me up every morning or keeps me awake at night. Both
Yeah.
ways. It's both exciting, rewarding, and exhausting at the same time. It's
Yeah.
just but that hasn't changed. I think that is what I keep hearing from all of my founder friends is that resilience that they have to keep going because they feel so passionately about what they're building.
Right.
Yeah, I'm hoping the whole the funding scene and everything else, economic viability of different kinds of products kind of changes. But we'll have to wait and see.
Wait and see. And just to confirm, you're based in the US, correct?
Yes, I live in Bellevue, which is just
Near
a little bit
Seattle?
outside of
Yeah.
Seattle. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's been a tough year.
Yep.
And what you're saying is resonating for sure. And I would be curious then. We've been working with and seeing a lot of kind of entrepreneurs who are just starting out this year. And so I always like to ask, what what kind of advice or lessons learned would you pass on to a fellow or a peer entrepreneur, particularly one who's just starting out?
Oh gosh, yes. I think a couple of things that I really learned, but I also thought was very hard for me to learn. So I'll share those. Is that don't be afraid to ask.
Mm,
I think the worst thing that can happen if you ask is someone will just say no.
yeah.
So just ask for help, whatever you need, and be scrappy. You don't really need to have be frugal, be scrappy, and you don't really need to have like a huge team or build that first. Focus on talking to your customers before anything.
Mm-hmm.
So one example would be like in the initial days, I remember like standing outside. So I dropped my kids off to their practice, and this was like 2018, right? So
Yeah.
in-person practice still
Yeah.
existed. So I dropped off my
Yeah.
kids at the practice, and I was standing outside another kind of after school place, and I was just reaching out to parents and talking to them what they thought about this whole idea.
Mm,
So just talk to them and start slow practice with your friends if
mm.
customer interviews are not something that you have done, but there really is no way to replace that. There's no other path to getting a
Yeah.
product right.
Yeah. And there's no
Yeah.
perfect way to do it either. Like I think like going back to saying like be scrappy and like just do things, and ask for help. Like people and like you mentioned, people are very helpful and they're generally people are want to help. They especially other entrepreneurs want to support you. Like talking about their own journeys and their own lessons learned, so you can learn a lot just from asking. But I think like that talking to customers piece is so often overlooked, and it's been kind of one of the when I ask this question, lessons learned. Asking for help and talking to your customers, I would say, are probably the two most popular answers, with
Yeah.
good reason, because it means that we've learned often the hard way kind of what does help move you forward um and smartly too, like moving forward with intention, so you're not just kind of like creating things that no one actually wants. So I think that's fantastic. So I appreciate that piece of advice, thank you. And I would also be curious to know, um in where you're at now, what is a way that we, as your audience, as those people who want to support you, um, how can we support you? So, what is your ask here today?
Oh, thank you for asking that.
Of course.
Go to the website,
Hmm.
go to our product section and check out our apps. Try them out. If you like them, leave us a review. I would also encourage you to sign up for our newsletters. We ran a whole 8 weeks of story writing workshops, which were
Oh,
a huge,
amazing.
huge success. They were attended by about 100 kids from 5 different countries. So it was just it all started with an experiment, but we are what I was going to say is we are going to start those again. But we're
Okay.
going to start those like almost like once a week just to help kids kind of get through, because I know everybody is busy with their school. But if you want to sign up for our newsletters so that we can tell you, parents, mentors, aunts, uncles, anyone out there, if you want to have the kids join the story writing workshops,
Hmm.
yeah, I would love that.
That's really neat.
Thank
I love
you.
that. I love that. My dad's a professional storyteller, so I grew up in a household of having someone who was able to like bring to life like mythology and different kind of folk tales and such. So I really appreciate kind of the art of storytelling. It's something that with pitch design, that's kind of where I focus on, is kind of learning or figuring out what your story is and how to deliver that also with confidence. Because I was a kid who, although I was a writer, still a professional writer, and that was actually my like happy place was writing. I was terrified of public speaking and I was like a super introvert. So learning how to like deliver that story, like design the story, be creative, be imaginative, bring that all to life, and not just when you're a child, when you're older, which is much harder I found to do, to kind of nourish that. And then learn
I
how to
love
kind of
that.
deliver the
Oh
story.
gosh, we have to have another one where I can learn all about that
Oh yeah. Yeah,
storytelling.
no,
I love
it's
that.
yeah, no, it was really I feel very fortunate and didn't realize until probably very recently how fortunate I was to have that kind of in my life, and someone who was like an advocate for storytelling, which I think is very recently really gained traction and people are talking about it again. And I feel like it was lost for a long time. So I'm really happy to hear what you're doing and kind of like bringing that back and teaching people how to do it. And there's so much, I mean, it's our earliest form of communication as humans is through storytelling or verbal storytelling, and then writing as well. So I think that's amazing, and I love it so
Thank
much.
you.
So people, everyone who's watching, whether you're watching now or you're watching later, please check out popsmartkids.com. And it looks like you're also, are you on the socials as well?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Look for our handle on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Pop Smart Kids, one word.
perfect. Okay, so what would be the best way for people to actually get a hold of you if, say, they go check out something on your website and they really like the look of it, or they watch this and they want to connect with you on something? Maybe they want to talk about mentor over monitor strategy, whatever it is. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
There is definitely the contact us on the website,
Hmm.
but feel free to reach us at contact@popsmartkids.com.
Perfect. Cool. All right. Thank you so much. Cool. All right. So we're just getting
Thank
to
you.
the end here. If anyone has any last minute questions, please do put those in the chat. But otherwise, make sure to go check them out and follow PopSmart Kids and watch what they're doing. And kind of, I'm just really excited to follow that journey. So for me, something I always want to ask is there anything that you wanted to talk about today that we didn't touch on yet?
No, I think I had so much fun. No, I
Oh,
think we were
good.
able to dive into such a wonderful conversation. It's always fun to chat with you. Also wanted to add about the contact. So you can always reach me on social. So like the Instagram, I don't know how the live works, but if it shows my handle, feel free to reach out. I am usually accessible on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
Perfect. Okay, so that's
Also on
Priyanka
LinkedIn.
Priyanka Raha and Raha,
Yes,
Raha, for those who are
yes.
looking for her. Yeah, amazing. Cool. Thank you so much. And the last question from me here today is, what is one thing that brings you joy right now?
Oh, I actually invested in a bike for myself. I used to bike as a kid from grade 5 to until I finished my engineering, a good 12 years, 9 to 12 years. I used to
Mm-hmm.
bike every single day. That was my mode of transportation. So, and then everything else happened. I just didn't bike. And then
Mm-hmm.
now my kids bike. I used to run with them, and now they're a little older. I can catch up.
Yeah.
So I love going. I invested in a bike for myself. So three of us, we go on these bike rides, and it's been amazing.
Oh,
Even if it like drizzles, not if it doesn't like pour down, we'll do these bike rides, and we're loving it.
oh, I love that. I grew up on a mountain in Vancouver, and I did not touch a bike because it was all mountain biking. And I was like,
Yeah,
I can't do
yeah.
this. But
Oh, this is
recently,
hard for me too because
it
yeah,
is.
because I grew up next in a coastal area, so it was
Mm,
flat, mostly
yep.
flat, and this
Hmm.
is like, oh, okay,
Hmm.
just like yeah,
Yeah,
uphill.
exactly. That's the thing. Like North Vancouver, if anyone's been there, it's just like you're at the water and the rest of it is completely uphill from the
Yes.
water upwards. So I did not enjoy that. But I have recently, now that I'm in a flatter area, or what I thought was a flatter area, have been biking and I love it. Um, and yeah, it's just a really great way, especially right now, to kind of get out and get fresh air and see nature
Yes.
and feel safe doing so. And I think I really like that as well. So I really appreciate that that
Yeah,
thing that
it's
brings
it's
you
good for
joy.
the mind and the body, everything. It's yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
it's
it
very creative
is.
too. I think I just kind of
Yeah.
get my creative juices going.
Yeah,
Yes.
oh, interesting. Oh, I feel like
Yeah.
we have lots more to talk about, especially because I also would be curious to hear more about your experience as a woman in tech. Um, some people know that my other hat, so outside of Volition, being a managing partner here, is that I'm a lead researcher and facilitator with Women in Tech World, which is a Canadian nonprofit that works to advance women in tech through community-based research and programming. So that's also kind of my other
That's so
side.
fantastic.
It's
Yeah.
very, very interesting. So I've had the opportunity to talk to over 1,600 women in tech in Canada, and learn about their experiences and what being in the industry is like, and what we can do to kind of like create actionable change to help break down barriers and address systemic issues. So yeah, so that's something else that
Yes.
I'm always excited to talk to and curious to talk to women who have been, particularly women who've been in tech for your career and started out in engineering. And was it computer engineering, did you say?
Yes, I started as a software developer, but the engineering I did was not computer engineering. It was actually electronics engineering.
Right. Okay.
But that's a story for another day. But I
Yeah. So
graduated in 2002. There was no jobs. It was the end of
right.
the Y2K bubble.
Right.
So
Whole
had
other.
yeah,
Yeah.
had to take on whatever was available, but I enjoyed it. I wouldn't go back and change a thing.
Okay. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I feel like there's so much more to talk about. So I'm really
Yeah.
happy that you were able to join us today. We were able to have a first conversation. You are welcome back anytime. And thank you to everyone who joined here as well, whether you're joining live or later on. It was really great to have you here. If you just, I saw a few people just joined us. So we will have it on
Yes.
IGTV and YouTube, and you can learn more about Priyana and who is the, here I have the name, founder and CEO of PopSmartKids. And you can learn more about this, these incredible tools around storytelling. And it sounds like this trivia one, which we didn't get into as much, but there's lots going on there. And we talked about kind of screen time and Priyanka's philosophy around screen time. So there's a lot of really interesting pieces there, and I encourage you to go back and watch it. Otherwise, I will be back here next Tuesday where we have another founder chat. And I just really appreciate you being here with us today, Priyanka, and I hope to follow your journey. So keep in touch with us, reach out, take us in things, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.